Woman risks her life to save pregnant German Shepherd from python. Then something shocking happens. In the heart of a quiet Florida neighborhood, something terrifying was unfolding in the backyard of an abandoned house. A pregnant German Shepherd, trapped, her belly heavy with unborn puppies, fighting for her life as a massive python wrapped tighter and tighter around her body. The neighbors heard the desperate barks, but were too afraid to step in. Everyone thought it was too late. But then, one woman, a total stranger, climbed over the fence and did something no one expected. What she did next didn't just save one life, but an entire litter of puppies. And what happened moments later shocked everyone standing there. Before we begin this emotional and unbelievable story of courage and compassion, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss any of our heart-stopping, inspiring animal rescue stories. It was an unusually humid afternoon in Tampa, Florida. The air hung heavy with the scent of wet grass and distant rain. Neighbors along Willow Creek Lane were used to the sounds of birds, the occasional dog barking, and kids playing in front yards. But that day, something was different. From the backyard of an old abandoned house at the end of the street, a series of sharp, desperate barks rang out. Lena Carter, a 34-year-old nurse on her day off, froze mid-step while walking back from her mailbox. She tilted her head. The barks weren't the typical territorial warning. They weren't playful. They were screams. Animal screams. Her heart jumped. Without a second thought, she jogged toward the sound, her flip-flops slapping against the pavement. As she reached the edge of the property, she found several neighbors already gathered near the chain-link fence, murmuring with wide eyes and pale faces. "Oh my God, is that a dog?" someone whispered. "It's a German Shepherd, and she's huge. Must be pregnant," another neighbor added, voice trembling. Lena pushed her way to the front and gasped. There in the overgrown backyard, beneath a tangle of weeds and broken patio furniture, was a large female German Shepherd. Her thick black and tan fur was matted with dirt and leaves, and her belly bulged with life. Clear signs she was heavily pregnant. But that wasn't the worst part. Wrapped around her midsection was a massive Burmese python. Its thick, muscular scales tightened with every desperate movement the dog made. The python's body glistened, yellow and brown scales rippling as it squeezed harder. The shepherd kicked and twisted, her paws digging into the dirt, her mouth wide with panicked, breathless barks. Lena's stomach flipped. "Someone to call animal control," a man shouted. "We already did," a woman cried. "They said it could take hours." Lena didn't have hours. She looked at the faces around her. Fear, helplessness. No one was moving. No one was going to help. Her heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. Without another word, she climbed the fence, ignoring the scratches from the metal and the protests from the neighbors behind her. "Lena, are you crazy?" someone yelled. She didn't stop. Her sneakers hit the dirt, and she sprinted toward the struggling dog. The python lifted its head, tongue flicking, eyes narrowing at the sudden movement. Lena's mind screamed at her to turn back, but her feet kept going. Her nursing instincts took over. Assess, act, save. She grabbed the closest object she could find, a rusted metal garden rake lying near the old shed. With trembling hands and sheer adrenaline, she drove the end of the rake into the thickest part of the python's body, prying and pulling with every ounce of strength she had. The snake hissed, its grip loosening just enough for the German Shepherd to gasp for air. "Come on, girl. Breathe. Just breathe," Lena muttered, her arms shaking violently. Neighbors screamed encouragement from the fence line, but no one dared cross it. The shepherd's eyes, wild and terrified just moments ago, locked onto Lena's with something new. A flicker of hope. But the fight wasn't over. As the python recoiled, it lunged toward Lena's leg, jaws snapping inches from her calf. She stumbled back, falling onto the dirt, the rake slipping from her hands. Before she could react, something incredible happened. The German shepherd, still weak but driven by pure instinct and will, lunged at the snake's head, teeth sinking into its scales. The python twisted violently, releasing Lena entirely as it tried to pull away. Breathing hard, Lena scrambled to her feet and grabbed the wake again, slamming it against the ground near the snake's tail to drive it further away. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the python gave up, slithering back into the dense overgrowth at the edge of the yard and disappearing from sight. Lena dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around the shaking shepherd. "I've got you now. It's okay. You're safe," she whispered, tears falling onto the dog's dirty fur. But as she cradled the trembling animal, she felt something, a sudden sharp contraction beneath her hands. The shepherd wasn't just pregnant. She was going into labor. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs as she felt the German shepherd's body tense beneath her hands. "No, not now," she whispered, glancing toward the overgrown bushes where the python had disappeared. The dog let out a low, strained whimper, her sides contracting again. There was no mistaking it. She was going into labor and fest. Lena's training as a nurse kicked in. She knew that stress and trauma could trigger early labor in animals, just like in humans. The adrenaline, the oxygen deprivation, the sheer terror the dog had just endured, it was all too much. She needed help. "Somebody call an emergency vet," Lena shouted toward the growing crowd at the fence. "I'm trying," a neighbor yelled back, fumbling with his phone. "But the nearest one says it's a 30-minute wait for pickup." Lena's eyes darted toward her car parked down the street. There was no time to wait for help to come to them. "Forget it. I'm taking her myself," she muttered. But how? The dog was huge, easily over 70 pounds, and trembling with exhaustion. "I need something. A blanket. A board, anything to carry her." Another neighbor, Mr. Grant, ran to his truck and returned with an old beach towel and a piece of plywood from his garage. Together, they gently maneuvered the shepherd onto the makeshift stretcher. The dog whined but didn't resist. Her eyes locked onto Lena's face with a strange, heartbreaking mix of fear and trust. "I've got you, girl. Hang on for me," Lena whispered, stroking her head. With Mr. Grant's help, they loaded her carefully into the back seat of Lena's car. Lena jumped behind the wheel, heart racing, sweat pouring down her neck. She didn't stop to grab her purse or her phone charger. She just drove. Tires screeched as she pulled onto the main road, ignoring every speed limit sign. One hand gripped the steering wheel, the other reached back to soothe the dog, who now lay on her side, panting heavily. "Stay with me, just a little longer," Lena kept saying, as much to herself as to the dog. The closest 24-hour emergency vet was across town, a good 20 minutes away on a clear day. But traffic was thick with late afternoon drivers. Lena's mind raced as fast as the car. What if she didn't make it in time? What if the puppies were in distress too? Every minute counted now. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she saw the shepherd lift her head slightly and nuzzle against her arm. It was the smallest, weakest gesture, but it gave Lena hope. "This dog is a fighter," she told herself, blinking back tears. At the next intersection, she blasted her horn and swerved around a line of cars, earning angry shouts from other drivers. She didn't care. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, Lena pulled up to the entrance of the Gulf Coast Emergency Animal Hospital. Jumping out, she ran to the reception desk. "I've got a pregnant German shepherd in labor. She was just attacked by a snake. She needs help now. The staff didn't hesitate. 2 vet techs rushed outside with a stretcher, and within seconds, the shepherd was being wheeled into the back emergency room. Lena stood by the glass door, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Dirt streaked her jeans. Her face was flushed and sweaty, and her heart felt like it was about to burst. A kind-looking nurse approached her with a clipboard. "Ma'am, do you know the dog's name or her owner?" Lena opened her mouth, then froze. She realized she didn't know anything about the dog, not her name, not her story, not how she ended up abandoned and pregnant in an overgrown backyard, fighting for her life against a python. I don't know," Lena admitted. "I just found her." The nurse smiled gently. "Well, until we know, we'll call her Miracle." Lena's throat tightened. As she sank into the nearest chair, she whispered the name to herself, letting it settle deep in her heart. Miracle. The dog deserved no less. But even as relief began to creep in, Lena knew this story was far from over, because what the vets would discover next would leave everyone speechless. Lena sat in the waiting room, her knees bouncing with nervous energy. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second stretching longer than the last. Her clothes were still damp with sweat and dirt from the rescue. The air smelled of antiseptic and wet fur, and the distant sounds of other animals being treated filled the space. She stared at the double doors that led to the back treatment rooms, where Miracle was fighting for her life and the lives of her unborn puppies. A veterinarian, a tall woman with short brown hair and tired eyes, finally pushed through the doors and approached. Her name tag read Dr. Morales. "Are you the one who brought in the shepherd?" she asked gently. Lena stood so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. "Yes. Is she okay?" Dr. Morales offered a small, reassuring smile. "You got her here just in time. She's stable, but it was close. The python caused significant compression injuries. Her breathing is shallow, and she's extremely anemic from the stress." Lena's heart dropped. "And the puppies?" The vet hesitated. "That's the part we didn't expect." Lena's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Dr. Morales motioned for her to follow. "Come with me." They walked down the brightly lit corridor toward the ultrasound room. Inside, a black and white monitor flickered with a grainy image. Lena's eyes widened as she focused on the screen. There, small but distinct, were tiny heartbeats. Not 1, not 2, but 8. 8 puppies, Dr. Morales said softly. "And they're all alive." Lena covered her mouth with both hands, tears welling in her eyes. "Oh my God. We're prepping her for an emergency C-section now." The vet continued. "Given her condition, it's the safest option." Lena nodded quickly. "Do whatever it takes. Please, just save her and the babies." Dr. Morales placed a gentle hand on Lena's shoulder. "We'll do our best. But there's something else." Lena froze. "We scanned her for a microchip, and she has one." Lena blinked in surprise. "Wait, you mean she has an owner?" Dr. Morales nodded. "We ran the ID number through the database. Her registered name is Kira, and she was reported missing over 3 months ago." Lena's mind reeled. 3 months? "Yes," Dr. Morales said, "and she's registered to a family about 10 miles from here." Lena felt a strange swirl of emotions, relief that Kira might have a family waiting, but also worry. Where had she been all this time? How did she end up abandoned, pregnant, and fighting for her life in a stranger's backyard? Dr. Morales handed her a printed address and phone number. "We're contacting them now, but if you want, you can call too." Lena stared at the paper, her hands trembling. Part of her wanted to wait, to let the vets do their job, but another part of her burned with curiosity and concern. She stepped out into the hospital's small parking lot and dialed the number with shaking fingers. After 3 rings, a voice answered. "Hello." The voice was hoarse, tired, and male. Lena cleared her throat. "Hi, is this, Mr. Thompson? I'm calling from Gulf Coast Emergency Animal Hospital. I believe we have your dog, Kira." There was a pause, then a sharp, choked breath from the other end. "Kira? Are you sure?" The man's voice cracked with disbelief. "Yes, sir. She's here. She's safe now. But she's been through a lot, and she's about to have puppies." Another long pause. Then Lena heard the unmistakable sound of a man crying. I thought she was gone forever," he whispered. "I searched for months. Flyers, shelters, nothing. I can't believe this." Lena felt tears prick at her own eyes. "You should come. She'll need you." "I'm on my way," the man said, voice shaking. As Lena hung up, she stood under the fading afternoon sun, her heart racing for 100 different reasons. Miracle. No, Kira wasn't just fighting for herself. She had a whole life, a family to, and soon 8 new lives to protect. But as Lena turned back toward the hospital doors, she couldn't shake one haunting thought. Where had Kira been all these months? And what kind of nightmare had she survived to end up there? That day, under that python. The answers were coming, and they were more shocking than Lena could imagine. Lena sat in the corner of the waiting room, her hands still trembling, eyes locked on the swinging double doors of the surgical suite. Her heart raced every time she thought of Kira lying unconscious on that table, fighting for her life and the lives of her unborn puppies. Just as she stood to pace the floor again, the front door swung open with a sudden burst of air. A tall man with sandy brown hair and tired eyes rushed inside, scanning the room in a panic. "Mr. Thompson?" Lena asked softly. He turned toward her, eyes red-rimmed but hopeful. "Yes. Where is she? Where's Kira?" Lena quickly introduced herself, explaining how she'd found Kira tangled in the python's grip and how the vet team was performing emergency surgery now. Mr. Thompson, whose full name was David Thompson, covered his face with both hands. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing heavily, as if trying to process everything at once. "I thought she was gone forever," he whispered, lowering his hands. "We moved here from Texas 4 months ago. The first week, Kira slipped out through the back gate. We searched everywhere, posted signs, called shelters. Nothing. It destroyed us." Lena swallowed hard, imagining the heartbreak. "And the pregnancy?" she asked gently. David shook his head, bewildered. "She wasn't pregnant when she left. She must have gotten pregnant while she was out there, on her own." Lena's stomach twisted at the thought. Kira, a trained, beloved family dog, had spent months wandering the streets, alone, hungry, pregnant, and now, after surviving who knows what, she had nearly been killed by a python. "I don't even want to imagine what she's been through," David said, sitting heavily in the chair beside her. They sat in silence for a few minutes, broken only by the faint sounds of barking and voices from the back treatment rooms. Finally, Dr. Morales reappeared, peeling off her surgical gloves with a tired but relieved smile. "She made it," the vet announced. Lena and David both stood at once. "Kira's stable. The C-section went smoothly, and all 8 puppies are alive and breathing on their own." David's eyes filled instantly with tears. He covered his mouth and let out a shaky breath. "Thank God. Thank you. Oh, all of you." Lena wiped her own tears, relief washing over her. "You can see her in a few minutes," Dr. Morales continued. "We'll let her wake up first." As David sat back down, still shaking with emotion, he turned to Lena. I don't know how to thank you. You saved her life, and my family's. Lena smiled softly. Honestly, I just did what anyone should have done. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. Plenty of people had stood by the fence, too afraid to act. She had been the only one to climb over. The weight of that realization hit her as she watched David fumble for his phone and call his wife, barely able to speak through his tears as he told her the news. While he made the call, Lena's thoughts drifted. What would become of Kira now? What about the puppies? Would they all survive the next critical days? And more haunting still. What other dangers had Kira faced during those long, lonely months wandering the Florida wilderness? Suddenly, Dr. Morales returned, her face more serious this time. There's one more thing, she said, her tone cautious. Both Lena and David turned toward her. When we were prepping her for surgery, we noticed scars along her ribs and back legs, deep ones, older than the snake attack. Looks like she's been injured before, maybe even attacked by other animals while she was missing. David's face paled. You mean she's been fighting for her life this whole time? The vet nodded. Most likely. It's amazing she survived it all. Lena swallowed hard. Kira wasn't just a rescue story. She was a survivor, in every possible way. And as the doors to the recovery room finally opened, letting them in for their first look and her resting peacefully beside her newborn puppies, Lena knew something else deep inside. This wasn't the end of Kira's story. It was just the beginning. Because the real healing, for both Kira and her family, was still to come. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the wide hospital windows, casting a warm glow across the recovery room where Kira lay curled with her 8 tiny puppies. Her breathing was slow but steady. The soft rise and fall of her chest brought visible relief to everyone who walked past her enclosure. David sat close by, one hand resting on her side, his thumb moving in slow, gentle circles through her fur. Lena stood at the door, smiling softly as she watched the scene unfold. She had barely slept, her mind replaying the rescue again and again. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the python's coils tightening, heard Kira's gasps for air, and felt the terror of that moment when she thought both dog and puppies would be lost forever. But now, watching Kira nestled with her newborns, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in days. Peace. Dr. Morales entered the room with a clipboard in hand. Vitals are holding steady, she announced, checking Kira's IV line. We'll keep her for another 48 hours, just to be sure. But she's a fighter. No question about that. David let out a breath of gratitude. Thank you. Again. All of you. The moment was interrupted by a sudden knock on the glass door of the recovery room. Lena turned. 2 men stood outside, animal control officers wearing dark green uniforms and stern expressions. One of them, Officer Ramirez, stepped forward as Dr. Morales opened the door. Good morning, he said, glancing down at his notepad. We're here following up on yesterday's incident. Got a report of a large python on residential property. We need details. David stood, his face paling. You're talking about the snake? Officer Ramirez nodded. Neighbors called it in. Some are pretty shaken. We're under pressure to find and remove it before it attacks again. Lena's stomach twisted. The memory of the python's eyes, its muscle-coiled body, flashed in her mind. Officer Ramirez continued, We'll be sending a wildlife team to search the area today. But honestly, with this heat and the dense brush, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. David ran a hand through his hair. You're saying it's still out there? Most likely, the officer said grimly. Lena felt a cold chill crawl up her spine. The idea of that snake still slithering through the neighborhood, just waiting for another target? It made her skin crawl. Officer Ramirez made a few more notes and then asked, "By the way, who was the one who pulled the dog from the python?" David pointed toward Lena. "That was her." The officer turned, offering a rare smile. "Well, I gotta say, that was brave. Reckless, but brave. Not many people would have done what you did." Lena smiled weakly, still feeling the lingering exhaustion of that day. "I just couldn't stand there and do nothing." After a few more questions, the officers left, promising to start their search at first light. As they walked out, Lena glanced at Kira, who stirred at the sudden noise, but quickly settled back down when David gently stroked her head. Hours passed. By late afternoon, a few friends and neighbors came by to drop off blankets and supplies for the puppies. Word of the dramatic rescue had spread faster than Lena expected. Her phone buzzed with messages from strangers, thanking her for her courage. Some even called her a hero. But Lena didn't feel like a hero. She just felt connected to Kira, to those tiny, fragile puppies fighting to live, and oddly enough, even to David and his family, though she'd met them only hours ago. As the sun began to set, Dr. Morales pulled Lena aside. "I don't usually say this to people who aren't family," she began. "But after everything you did for Kira, if you'd like, you're welcome to visit any time, even after she goes home." Lena's heart swelled. "Thank you. I'd love that." But just as a smile touched her lips, a loud voice echoed from the lobby. "Excuse me, I need to speak to the vet immediately." Lena turned toward the sound. A man in a wildlife removal uniform stood by the front desk, holding something in his hand, a blurry photograph on his phone. The receptionist called for Dr. Morales. The man pointed to the image. "It's the python," he said, voice urgent. "Someone just spotted it again, less than 2 blocks from here." Lena's breath caught. The danger wasn't over, not even close. The hospital lobby fell silent as the wildlife officer's words hung in the air. 2 blocks away. The python was still in the neighborhood, and closer than anyone thought. Lena's stomach twisted. Her first instinct was to run to the recovery room and check on Kira and the puppies. But before she could move, Dr. Morales was already stepping into action. "Lock down the building," the vet instructed the receptionist. "No animals leave the premises until we're sure the area's safe." The wildlife officer, whose name tag read Carl Mason, approached Lena and David with urgency. "We believe the snake was drawn to this area by the scent of the dog. Pregnant animals give off strong biological signals, easy targets for predators like that." David's face paled. "You're saying it's following her?" "It's possible," Carl said grimly. "And now with the puppies here, the scent trail is even stronger." Lena's heart pounded. "What do we do?" "We've set traps along the main road," Carl explained. "But if the snake's desperate enough, it might come looking for food, or finish what it started." The words hit like a punch to the chest. Inside the recovery room, Kira lay resting, too weak to stand for long. Her newborn puppies huddled close to her belly. Lena rushed inside, dropping to her knees beside the kennel. "You're safe here, girl. I won't let anything happen to you," she whispered, running her fingers through Kira's soft fur. David joined her, placing a protective hand on the edge of the kennel. "We'll stay with her, all night if we have to." And that's exactly what they did. As darkness fell, the clinic remained on high alert. Every door was checked, every window locked. The staff, though exhausted from a full day of emergencies, stayed vigilant. Carl and his team parked their truck nearby, using thermal imaging cameras to monitor the area. But as the night dragged on, tension climbed higher. Around 2 a.m., one of the exterior motion sensors triggered. A loud beep echoed through the building, making everyone freeze. Carl grabbed his flashlight and radio. "Movement on the west side." Lena's heart stopped. The west side, right near the back entrance. "Stay here," Carl ordered, rushing toward the door with two of his men. David stood, fists clenched. "I can't just sit here." Lena grabbed his arm. "Wait, stay with Kira. She needs you here." Reluctantly, David stayed. Lena moved to the nearest window, peering out into the darkness. Through the dim security lights, she caught a glimpse of something moving through the grass. Long, slow, sinister. The python. It slid toward the building, tongue flicking, body blending into the dirt and shadows. Carl and his team approached carefully, setting up a perimeter. Suddenly, the snake surged forward, striking at one of the traps. Carl shouted, lunging with a capture pole, wrapping the metal loop around the snake's thick neck. Two other officers grabbed its body, straining against its weight as it thrashed violently. Lena clutched the window frame, her breath frozen in her lungs. The struggle seemed to last forever, but finally, the snake's movement slowed. Pinned, captured, contained. Cheers erupted from Carl's team. Inside the clinic, the tension broke like a wave. David let out a shaky breath, collapsing back into his chair with relief. Lena sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands, tears falling from pure exhaustion and emotional release. Carl entered moments later, sweat dripping down his face, but wearing a proud smile. "It's over," he said. "We've got it. We'll be relocating the snake far away from this area." The staff clapped. Some even hugged each other. Lena stood and rushed back to Kira's side. The shepherd stirred, blinking open her tired eyes, as if sensing that the danger was gone. "You're safe now, Mama," Lena whispered, kissing the top of her head. David wiped his face and smiled down at both of them. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in soft pink and gold, Lena realized something. This wasn't just about saving a dog. It was about saving a family, about standing up when it mattered most, and about realizing that sometimes heroes come in the most unexpected forms. As Kira's puppies whimpered softly in their sleep, the entire clinic breathed a collective sigh of relief. The nightmare was over, and a new chapter, full of hope, was just beginning. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who loves inspiring animal rescues. Let's keep spreading messages of courage, compassion, and hope.